Okay, you're good whenever.
So the biggest thing is making sure that each time we turn it on, if we're going to use the calibrate button, we have to make sure the doors are open and it is room air in there. The whole purpose of the calibration is to let the machine know what room air is, because room air is about 20.9% oxygen. So if you set it without emptying it out and there's still more oxygen in there, the machine is off where it thinks room air is, and it's going to try to be adding more in. Like right now it says 48.4, even though it's completely open at room air. And it's not changing at all, the oxygen's not on, everything's off, but it still thinks it's 48.4 in there. So if you were to put an animal in and set it to 40, it's going to lower the oxygen, or it's not going to turn on, and it's not going to be giving any oxygen supplementation. So the important thing is to turn everything off, monitor only, into the main screen, click on the oxygen box, make sure this is on monitor only, open the doors and make sure you air it out, whether you fan it out with a blanket or whatever you got to do, but just make sure that this number stops moving. If this number is moving, you cannot calibrate.
And we need to make sure that the oxygen is turned off on the meter over there.
That's part of it. It's not as important. As long as monitor only is on, this won't be supplying oxygen anyway, but it is always a good practice to go ahead and do that. But the main thing is to not ever hit the calibrate oxygen button unless you're sure inside the cage is room air. And you do that by making sure this number does not move with the doors open. Now that the doors are open and the number's not moving, we can calibrate the oxygen. Hit calibrate oxygen and OK. And that tells the machine that we're at room air, 20.9%. You got to sit and wait for a second, make sure it doesn't move, because if it continues to drop, that means there's more oxygen in there and it's trying to get out and get down to room air. But as long as it stays at 20.9, then you're okay to go ahead and turn it back to active output, and then turn up your flow meter until it reaches the top of the machine. At that point, you can close the doors and it'll know where room air, it knows what percent we're at, so that it knows what it's trying to get to. If we do that wrong, or if we go in and if everything's closed up, now it'll start to climb, because now it's supplementing oxygen, raising the percentage in the chamber. So now if there's any problems or anything happens, do not hit the calibrate oxygen unless you're going to open it and clear everything out. Because at this point, I can still tell it that we're at 20.9, even though it was at almost 22. And it's going to keep trying to go higher and higher. Now it's at 21.1, 21.2. If I just hit calibrate oxygen, it's going to reset it, even though it didn't change anything inside the machine. So it's kind of like setting your watch to the wrong time. It's never going to be correct. It's always going to try to be something it's not. So at this point, it says it's 21, but it's actually much higher, which means that even though we may be at 40 at some point, the machine will think that we're several percents lower, and it's going to keep trying and trying and trying to raise it. The machines can't go much higher than 40 or 50 without, leaking oxygen or some sort of a seal going. It just can't go that much higher. So we're overworking the machines and we're wasting oxygen. Or conversely, we may be saying we're at 40, but we're actually only at 25, and we're not giving the appropriate oxygen to the patient. So the main thing is just make sure, do not hit calibrate oxygen without making sure you empty all the oxygen out and everything is completely the same as the room air that you're breathing.